A reading from the book of Isaiah, chapter 58. Shout out, do not hold back. Announce to my people their rebellion, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet day after day they seek me and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that practiced righteousness. They ask of me righteous judgments. They want God on their side. Why do we fast, but you do not see? Why humble ourselves, but you do not notice? Is not this the fast that I choose? To loose the bonds of injustice? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and to bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them and not to hide yourself from your own kin. If you remove the yoke from among you, pointing of the finger, the speaking of evil, if you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness, and your gloom be like the noonday. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your needs in parched places and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water whose waters never fail. Your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations. You shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets to live in. Hear what the Spirit is saying to God's people. Thanks be to God. I've been asked to speak about why we as Christians do justice work, how it can be a spiritual practice. Many of us are familiar with the prophet Micah's response when asked what God requires of us. Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. But it goes deeper than, well, we do it because we're told to. Doing justice is more than just avoiding hypocrisy. In the reading from Isaiah we just heard, the people say that they're seeking God. They're fasting. They seem to want an authentic experience of transcendence. And the prophet responds, not with contemplative prayer techniques, as hopeful as they can be, not with a song to sing or a worship service to attend, but with a call to action that includes feeding the hungry and sheltering the unhoused. Here, it is in caring for those whom God loves in practical, hands-on ways that we ourselves come closer to God. There are a few challenges, of course. We're not given a clear instruction manual on how we're supposed to go about doing this work. Should we focus on individuals or organizations? How much time do we spend taking people out of the river? And how much do we focus on preventing them from getting thrown in the first place? While there's plenty of work to be done on all fronts, the focus here, at least, seems to be on more direct action, things that put us in relationship with folks we might never encounter otherwise, relationships that don't allow us to hide. When we're up close, we see complexities that we might never see while contemplating in the abstract. We also quickly come up against our limits, what we can do and what, for whatever reason, we just can't do. That can bring humility, remind us of our dependence on God and on each other, our need to receive as well as to give, something that all spiritual practices end up doing as well. As with other spiritual practices, there's also the very real danger of self-righteousness. There's a reason that we are asked to remove the pointing of the finger. When we know that we're not doing all that we feel we should, it's tempting to turn those negative feelings outward, to find someone else to blame, to bear the weight of our frustration, whether that's our fellow citizens or our political leaders or sometimes even the needy themselves. And while the causes of hunger and homelessness are complex and widespread, there is plenty of blame to go around. That does not give us license to point the finger as a way of removing the weight from our own shoulders. It takes spiritual practice and discipline to acknowledge our limits and to discern how we're going to work through them without making ourselves feel better at someone else's expense. There's at least one other spiritual danger to this work. Once we start paying attention to need, it's hard to stop. It's hard not to get overwhelmed. And it can be really tempting to fall into paralysis or despair. The images in this passage are powerful, though. Whoop, I'm skipped page. There we go. Okay. Didn't seem right. Here we go. It's tempting to get focused on becoming paralyzed or despairing when we see all of the need around us. We can focus so much on not being able to do everything that we forget that we can do something and that what we do matters. Giving someone the strength to continue for one more day, treating them with the God-given dignity they deserve, that matters. No matter how great or small the long-term impact might seem to be. While there are undoubted challenges to this work, there are also some promises we can hold on to. First, Isaiah tells us that we will see more clearly. When we feed the hungry, when we help to house the homeless, we find more light in the darkness. We find that it's possible to get beyond our own self-absorption when we're forced to be in the present moment and actually help someone else. It doesn't always feel like a good thing because we're seeing more of the need, but we're also at least sometimes able to see beyond the moment. We can see more than just our own efforts. We realize that more people of goodwill are involved than we ever imagined, that there's more cause for hope than watching the news might lead us to believe. We can also find the beauty and the common humanity of those we're serving. We can find more reasons for gratitude, more reasons for joy. We're also promised that God will guide us continually, that God will satisfy our needs in our parched places and make us strong. In other words, we are not left to our good intentions. Praise be to God. God is with us every step of the way, giving us light to take the next step, increasing our capacity to give and to serve. We often don't know what we can do until we start doing it. And then once we start, God gives us the energy and the imagination and the will to do more. The images in the passage from Isaiah are powerful. We're told that when we do this work, we will be like a watered garden. With God and our faith community caring for and tending to us, we're able to provide more to others, to feed them, to give them shelter, and then also to receive what they have to give in return. We become like a spring of water that does not fail because we're drawing from an endless source. It doesn't mean we don't ever need breaks or times of rest. Gardens have fallow seasons. Springs cannot be tapped continually. We need time for our reserves to fill, but we are never expected to draw from our own strength alone. This, of course, provides challenges too, because it requires us to trust other people and not to try to do everything ourselves. As we all know, hunger and homelessness work is inherently a group endeavor. We can and should rotate who takes the lead. This is yet another opportunity for humility in my mind, because it makes us recognize that there's more than one right way to do things, that my way is not the only way, and that I can actually learn from other people as they approach the same tasks. And if that's not a part of spiritual practice, I don't know what is. I love the final images given to us by Isaiah. He tells us that when we do this work, we raise up the foundations of many generations. We don't need to start from scratch or reinvent the wheel. We build on the work of those who've gone before us. We can take comfort in knowing that the work that we're a part of started long before we were born, and it will continue long after we're gone. We don't have to finish the work. of feeding the hungry and housing the homeless, we just have to continue it. And when we do these things, we are told that we are repairers of the breach. We're helping to close the gap between what is and what could be. We're restorers of streets to live in. We're helping to repair the world. And that, to me at least, is the core of spiritual practice. Thank you.